Welcome to a lore explanation video for Mr. Rental, the video game. A series where our good friend Mr. Own goes out of his way to burn all mashups. I hope that you've enjoyed the newest entry in the Mr. Rental saga, Story Mode, a choose your own adventure, where you get to decide the fate of our own good friends Mr. Rental and Mr. Own. However, I'm sure that with this new entry in the series after a grand 7 years, it leaves you with a lot of questions, or maybe you don't really care. It's fine too. The way the story of the paint branch got told was pretty obtuse and vague in general, so I don't blame you if you didn't follow it. But while I've got you here, why not clear up some of those vagaries just for the sake of it? I'm sure some of you out there would probably be happy to get definitive answers for this. Rest assured, we thought all of this through as best as we could before pursuing this story. Be sure to keep that in mind, even if what you're about to hear sounds absolutely psychotic. So, first off, the thing with the dimension hopping car. This one is actually relatively simple to explain because it was already kind of pre-established information. In the video behind the scenes Mr. Rental the video game, the original creator of the Mr. Rental series, MBG Music, reveals the plans for his series finale that never ended up getting made. In it, it's stated that the crappily drawn car exists as something of a link between the two parallel universes of Looney Tunes and Microsoft Paint, and that Mr. Rental and Mr. Own are two separate people who each live in those two separate universes respectively. Now, the exact events of that series finale didn't actually canonically happen, as can be inferred by the video A Hard Day's Work, Mr. Rental the video game. But there's nothing saying that the concept of the car acting as a multiversal link isn't still canon. So that's the how of Mr. Rental and Mr. Own swapping universes when they're hit by the cars. But why do they end up getting hit by them in the first place? What's the deal with 2B being in two places at once? Driving two identical cars and crashing into two identical people. What was she trying to do, and what even was it that she did and why? Well, to explain all of that, we're gonna have to explain her story in full, so strap in, cause it's gonna be a long one. Let's start at, well, the start, or I guess the end, depending on how you want to look at it. See, the 2B and 9S shown in the Sivagana storyline have canonically been through all of the events of Nier Automata. I think that's how you pronounce it, I don't even know. Up to and including ending E. So, the two of them were just hanging out in their home dimension when all of a sudden, the voice decided he wanted to be as a soldier to keep Holtman in line. He attempted to use the Figment transportation device to summon 2B, but 9S intercepted the process as it happened with his hacking abilities, swapping the FTD's target from 2B to himself to save her. He then landed in the central Kana Continuum with the voice not best pleased by his insolence. Why didn't the voice just try to summon 2B again after 9S came out? Well, this is actually quite complicated, and we don't have the time to delve into it right now. I ask that you keep it in mind for later. Most of what you'll need to know for the story's sake gets covered in the description of the Skyrim mod Intercepted Broadcasts from Tamriel anyway. What happened to 9S after that? That's also stuff covered in the mod, but we'll get to that later. Let's keep following 2B for now. With the most important person in her life taken from her yet again, 2B was left clueless on how to find him. That is, until January 31st, 2017 at 9:30am PST, when Eggnog, aka the Lithes Kid, suddenly appeared, took 2B to the Microsoft Paint universe where Mr. Own resided, and told her exactly what she needed to do next to get to the CCC. In specific, she needed to find the creepily drawn car and never stop driving it for anything. How did Eggnog know to tell her this? How did he know to help her at that exact time? Again, later. Just stick with me for a bit, I promise this will all make sense. After explaining all that, Eggnog walked away unceremoniously, leaving 2B to track down the car by herself. It took her a bit, but eventually, while working undercover at the fucking store, she took notice of Mr. Owen. Shortly after, she was able to confirm that his car was indeed the one she had been looking for, but decided to wait for the right moment to steal it, when Mr. Owen's guard was down. In the video, Story Mode, Mr. Rintle the video game, we see that moment as 2B is seen taking the car, driving forward into Mr. Owen and creating an interdimensional wormhole. But as it happens, she didn't end up where she was trying to go at first. She actually ended up taken to the Looney Tunes universe, where Mr. Rintle resided. If that wasn't bad enough, she arrived without the car she stole. Why? Well, we'll put a pin in that. Anyway, thinking on her feet, she spotted yet another creepily drawn car nearby. This one belonging to Mr. Rintle, and quickly rushed over to steal it and create yet another interdimensional wormhole as she crashed into Mr. Rintle, as shown in Story Mode Looney Tunes. This time the car actually did end up taking her to the CCC. How did this happen? Put another pin in that. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about, I know what I'm saying, I know what I'm doing. Let's not make any inferences here. In any case, 2B finally arrived in the central canon continuum, only to find, after investigating for a while, that 9S had already escaped to another unknown dimension. Soon after, she met Wario and Waluigi, along with Miss Trent, put yet another pin in that, who offered her shelter. While there, she learned of the garlic taco and its uniquely powerful trans-dimensional properties. Figuring the taco was her best bet in finding 9S, she then stole a taco from Holtman Works Company and attempted to escape the CCC. However, the Grandio City police force were hot on her tail and ended up chasing her back to where she started. This would happen to her a few more times, but she was eventually approached by Woodman. He informed her about the CCC's time dilation, as well as some insider information on HWC. This gave her an idea. TB had to find somebody on the inside of HWC that she could get to trust her. Someone down on their luck, wanting for an exit, but close enough to the top that they could pull strings and get the heat off of her escape. Enter Wade LD, Administrative Secretary, the perfect mark. All she needed was the hook to get him interested.
Haven't you noticed that it's never daytime?
And like that, she's got him. She would keep her correspondence with Wade, steadily gaining more and more of his trust, letting him in on more and more of her plans. Everything went accordingly until she suddenly realized something. She empathized with Wade's struggle. She couldn't bring herself to screw him over. She didn't want to go back to betraying her friends, not even if it was for 9S. He wouldn't want that. So she offered for Wade to escape with her. To be absolutely clear, implied romantic tension between Wade and 2B was entirely one-sided on Wade's part. 2B loves 9S more than anything. She just thought Wade was a good guy who deserved a better life. That's pretty much it. But as it turns out, 2B had been a bit too careless, getting both herself and Wade caught and cornered by the authorities soon after the offer. The two quickly took a bite of the garlic taco, finding themselves in a police chase across dimensions, before again being cornered in the Red Dead dimension with one taco bite left. Wade then sacrificed his life so that 2B could take the last bite and escape without him. Once the portal closed behind her, she left Wade one last message before continuing on her quest to find 9S. After leaving the Red Dead dimension, 2B found herself in Kirby Fighters, but not the Game Boy world we see in Kirby Fighters 1. She first found herself in the usual world of Kirby fighters where Pink Kirby resides. After a while of searching, she managed to find Waluigi's taco stand in this dimension, shown in Kirby Fighters 2. Put a fourth pin in that. Taking one of the garlic tacos, which in this universe are one-time uses like in Kirby, she left the colourful world of Kirby Fighters we normally see and jumped into the Game Boy version where Grey Kirby was originally from. This then allows for the events of Kirby Fighters as a series to happen, with Grey Kirby jumping into the portal after she rushed by him. Following this, 2B would continue her search, utilising various anomalous items and entities to traverse across realities. She made a few notable appearances in worlds of note during this time, such as the AI universe, the Steve Harvey universe, and the Amuno universe, which can be seen in Final Destination, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Ransomware from Undertale 2. Speaking of Undertale 2, this is about the time when 2B yet again met up with the one and only Eggnog, who took her from the Amuno universe directly to the realm of Mundus, where Ines had been stranded. Finally reunited, the two were able to use the Elder Scroll in Ines's position to return to their home dimension, putting the whole adventure behind them for good. So that is the story of 2B. But again, we left to wonder, why did Eggnog show up and help when he did? And what was 9S up to before he was found by 2B? Well, you'll be happy to know we can finally actually get into that. As previously mentioned, 9S was summoned to the central canon continuum in place of 2B. The voice, although initially wanting to kill 9S for his interference, instead decided to offer him a job at Holtman Works Company. That way the voice could at least get some use out of his abilities, and it would be kept on a tight leash as Holtman's administrative secretary. 9S accepted, but he wasn't stupid. You could tell they were waiting for any excuse to get rid of him. So, in secret, he started work on a program that would reverse the effects of the Figment transportation device and send him back home. Soon enough, though, his treachery was discovered by his superiors and he was forced to run his program before it was finished. Of course, this led to it malfunctioning, stranding him into the realm of Mundus within Skyrim. You may be aware of what happened next if you follow the ARG itself, because it was documented in the aforementioned Skyrim mod released as part of it. But for the uninitiated, the mod itself is essentially unchanged from the base game, besides the addition of 4 books scattered across the map, detailing 9S's journey through his transcribed broadcasts. The important parts to note for this discussion are mainly the last 2, but the general story is that he woke up into the Skyrim intro, wandered around for a while with nobody able to help him, until he found and read the Elder Scroll. He then built a machine that would boost the signal strength of his broadcast, sending a pre-recorded message through a tear in space-time using the Elder Scroll's reality-bending power. This message would immediately reach Eggnog, who responded by pulling 2B from the Amuno universe and into the realm of Mundus with 9S. Shortly thereafter, Eggnog yet again walked away with no explanation. This would lead 9S to broadcast a follow-up message in thanks, before he and 2B would use the Elder Scroll to return to their home dimension. Now, about that thank you message, this is where things start getting crazy. Remember when I said that 9S was broadcasting through a tear in space and time? That is crucial to understand the mechanics of what's going on here. See, while the initial pre-recorded message may have just so happened to reach the right person to help 2B and 9S, the thank you message ended up having to take a much more circuitous route to reach its intended destination. It all began when the message was erroneously intercepted by Number File's computer during the problem E, while the Omegas were looking through his computer post-mortem. they noticed a pop-up on that same email telling them they had to enter the correct T coordinate and forward it. So what is a T coordinate? Well, it's not that complicated, thankfully. In the coordinate plane, the realm that number file resided in, everything corresponds to coordinates, including time itself. This means that if you simply input the right coordinates, you can send information into the past, which is exactly what the Omegas did during the Solution E. With the help from the audience, Gadagadi was able to send 9S's thank you message back in time to January 31st, 2017 at 9:30am PST, which is exactly when Eggnog coincidentally warped into the coordinate plane. Reading the message, Eggnog was able to discern that it contained details of his immediate future actions. Indeed, this message, broadcast as a thank you to Eggnog, was received by him before he did any of these things that it was thanking him for. As such, it became a stable time loop. Eggnog received the message, which gave him the idea to help 2B in the first place, and those helpful actions would then go on to inspire the message, and so on and so forth. But getting into the specifics of the message, you'll notice 9S mentioned a car, and what Eggnog told 2B to do with it, but it never specified which car it was, and which dimension it originated from. So how did Eggnog know to drop 2B off in the Microsoft Paint universe? You see, Eggnog is an anomaly. As described in the Central Canon Continuum file-int-paint Holtman's archives, anomalies are objects or entities that can inherently break the rigid bounds of the universe. In extreme cases, they have the ability to warp reality, cross dimensions, and intuitively perceive things that they reasonably shouldn't. Eggnog is such a case, an extremely high-tier anomaly, who in addition to all of his more flashy powers is able to perceive and comprehensively understand other anomalies. So, when presented with 9S's message, Eggnog simply innately knew of the crepily drawn car, and that it was likely the one being referred to. But again, how did driving the car and not stopping get 2B to the CCC? Before we get ahead of ourselves, we ought to discuss how exactly the Omegas even solved the problem in the first place. Directly after the Omegas looked over 9S's thank you message on number file's computer, they tabbed over to the previous email, received on June 28, 2024 at 11:59am PST. The email itself was presented as a cryptic message warning number file of his imminent death and informing him of what he must do in order to have a chance at revival. It explained that he must go to the Las Misas of the 905 universe on October 13th, steal a watch from the game's protagonist, and stop it at exactly 9:30. In anticipation, number file uploaded Premonition OST version Undertale 1 minute after receiving the email, in which the words 1310 are spoken in reference to the promised date. On said date, main theme 905 was uploaded showcasing number file carrying out his instructions to the letter. Moving back over to the actual shown events in the problem E, we see that when presented with all of this information, the cryptic email, the thank you message, the stopped watch found on number file's body, Gadagadi was at the complete loss of what to do with it. So much so that he called for the audience's help.
What? Help me!
He exclaimed, summoning the help button above his head. This time, instead of instructing the audience to like the video, it instead directed them to the description. In it, the audience found this out of place line: problem, reverse promise date, plus stop time, minus funny years. What did any of that mean? You could probably say that in response to most of this video, but in this case, it meant that the audience had to reverse the promise date of 1310 into 0131, add the time 9:30am shown on the stopwatch, and subtract a funny 7 amount of years from the email's listed year of 2024 to result in 2017. All of those pieces were then combined to form the full date of January 31st, 2017 at 9:30am PST, thereafter converted to the Unix timecode 1485883800 due to another hint in the video's description. With that solved, it was then sent to the Omegas, who then went on to send it to Eggnog, as discussed. But why so specific? What was the relevance of getting that message to Eggnog on that particular date? Well, it just so happens that on January 31st, 2017, a Hard Day's Work Mr. Ringtool the video game was uploaded. And then exactly 45 seconds into the video, we see the first and only appearance from Eggnog in the Microsoft Paint universe, while Mr. Own is scrolling through his YouTube feed. This video was also notable for being the continuation of a cutaway gag seen in the video opening scene Waluigi's taco stand, in which we see 2B working as a cashier at the fucking store. From this, it can be inferred that the events of that cutaway gag happened on the date A Hard Day's Work was released. Therefore, the sequence of events on that date would be thus. Eggnog receives a thank you message. Eggnog warps over to Nia's universe to pick up 2B. Eggnog takes 2B to the Microsoft Paint universe. Eggnog instructs 2B on what she must do to reach the CCC before he warps away. 2B searches for the creepily drawn car, going undercover at the fucking store. 2B takes notice of Mr. Own at the store and decides to trick him, and the shown events of A Hard Day's Work ensue. So that's all well and good, but what are the following events in the solution E after cutting back to the Omegas? Well, after the message was successfully sent to the correct T coordinate, Numberfile's computer received another email, seemingly directed towards the Omegas themselves, and from the same mysterious unknown source. It was yet another thank you message, but that's not all. Within the email's cryptic wording, Gadagadi was able to pick up on the implication that there may yet be an opportunity to give Numberfile a second chance at life, a chance at forgiveness and new beginnings. With the seed of that idea planted in his head, Gadagadi's despondent stupor was finally broken. He may have been forced to take a life, but now, with nothing more than a hope, he was able to bounce back. He took the mysterious figure at their word, believing that even in death, it wasn't too late to save Numberfile. He would move forward, able to host his Gadag's giving feast with a smile. But the question remains, who was the figure that sent those mysterious emails to begin with? Who could have possibly been able to know all of these things with certainty? 3 words. Susanna Patria Hortman. In the video regarding Susie, file-int-resph Hortman's archives, Susie Hortman is said to have been scattered across the whole of reality, spread so thin she became nigh intangible. The only way she'd been able to communicate prior to her monologue at the end of said video was through short snippets of existing words and phrases used in and around the Sivagana channel. If you look over the emails again, you'll see that everything said in them is cobbled together using already extant titles, descriptions, bits of dialogue, etc. And this isn't the only example of Susie speaking in this manner. All throughout the ARG as a whole up to this point, you can find instances of this. Anytime you notice a familiar line where it shouldn't be, it was likely Susie trying to speak to you in the only way she could. But that isn't to say being spread across all reality doesn't come with advantages. For one, there's the fact that Susie was able to fully perceive the events of all realities she was scattered across throughout time and space. This is how she was able to know with certainty exactly what to say and when, and what would happen when she did it. Ever wondered who intercepted 9S's broadcasts and who compiled them into books for the audience to find? Here's a hint. It was Susie. But why would she want you to do all this? I don't know if you know this, it's pretty damn obvious, to get you to solve the ARG, of course. Now, with all of it squared away, we finally arrive at the true, actual focus of this video. Our final loose ends. The mechanics of the creepily drawn car, its metaphysical effects, and the implications they have on the story of Siva Gunner at large. I hope you're ready, because there's 3 more pages of this script that have been written out, so hopefully you still have popcorn left. I don't know why you'd be eating popcorn to a video like this. I mean, it's kind of weird. Going to say take a sip of water now. Let's begin with the most pressing of lingering questions. How did 2B driving the crapily drawn car land her in the CCC? It's been established that the car can travel between the Microsoft Paint and Looney Tunes universes, but nothing beyond that. So how? The best way to answer this is with a lesson in temporal mechanics. I'm dead serious. If you've been paying attention thus far, you'll remember that a key detail of 2B's instructions was that she had to never stop driving the car for anything. This small detail, while seemingly innocuous at first, actually caused such a cascading knock-on effect with the other mechanics at play that it created a time paradox. One of those mechanics being that the crapily drawn car can travel exactly 1 minute into the past when it swaps universes. Huh? Why didn't Dr. Inthenuts place the car a tier higher in the Paint archive if that's the case? Well, Inthenuts may be a pretty smart guy, but he doesn't know everything. He didn't see the videos where this effect was demonstrated, and even if he had, it's pretty much impossible to notice. I mean, how are you supposed to realise that the Microsoft Paint and Looney Tunes universes have synced timescales in the first place, let alone that 2B is travelling back only 1 minute? These things are hard to convey. But regardless, what could even be accomplished with 1 measly minute? Nothing of consequence, surely. Let's consult this diagram, proving that could be absolutely no far-reaching consequences of this ability. Oh shit. Okay, so basically, 2B driving the car and never stopping results in an infinite time loop. Let's break down this sequence of events here. 1. 2B steals Mr. Own's car in the Microsoft Paint universe and opens up a wormhole to the Looney Tunes universe. 2. 2B arrives in the Looney Tunes universe 1 minute in the past without the car she stole. We're getting there, trust me. 3. 2B takes exactly 1 minute to find Mr. Rental's car, steal it, and open a wormhole back to the Microsoft Paint universe. 4. 2B arrives in the Microsoft Paint universe 1 minute in the past without the car she stole. 5. 2B takes exactly 1 minute to find Mr. Own's car, steal it, and open up a wormhole back to the Looney Tunes universe. And 6. Repeat ad infinitum. So, if this is an infinite loop, why did it not actually loop forever? Why did 2B just get sent to the CCC after a second wormhole? Well, it's because in the Siva Gunner multiverse, there is an as of yet unspoken fundamental law, preventing paradoxes like this. Think of the multiverse like a computer. If there is a process getting stuck in a loop, it can't continue to process new information. It just gets stuck running the same thing over and over again. So it has a failsafe to break loops like this when they occur. In this case, what essentially happened was the multiverse autocorrected the loop by redirecting the car and everything inside of it to the CCC. Do note that this rule only applies to time loops involving physical objects, which is why the time loop with 9S's thank you message is still able to happen, since it's only information. This actually explains the deal with 2B losing the car each time she goes between the Microsoft Paint and Looney Tunes universes. It was simply the result of the redirect taking the car away. But wait, how can the infinite loop be partially caused by the redirect, the thing that's meant to break the loop? Well, have you heard of a thing called a quantum superposition? That's what's going on here. Both of the outcomes, the infinite loop and the metaverse or redirect, happen simultaneously, and therefore neither of the outcomes happen simultaneously. If you want me to explain any deeper than that, you're out of luck, because unfortunately, I'm not actually a quantum physicist. Sorry. Anyway, moving on to the question at heart of all of it. Why did the multiversal redirect send the creepily drawn car to the central canon continuum in specific? Out of all the infinite other worlds, why the CCC? And if there were two separate cars involved in the loop and therefore redirected, why was there only one car found by Holtman Works Company? To answer all that, we have to explain the concept of a platonic ideal and its relation to the world of Sivagana. If you've been keeping up with the ARG in full, you should have a pretty good understanding of platonic ideals already. But for the sake of completeness, let's go over it again quickly. Close your eyes and picture Granddad in your head. Now stop laughing because I'm trying to explain something. Okay, are you picturing? Good. I'm willing to bet that all of you in the audience had a slightly different picture of him in your head. But throughout all interpretations, there remains at least some sort of common ground. That is what a platonic ideal is, a collective sum of various thoughts and ideas with the same thematic baseline. Does that wording seem familiar? It should, because in the Re-SPH archive, this is how Dr. Endenotz described what a figment is. Figments are the platonic ideal of the concept they represent, made into physical beings within the CCC. You and I may have slightly different concepts of Granddad, and he may exist in many different forms throughout various works. For example, both his typical off-color Mario look-alike appearances and his appearance as Fred Flintstone with Mario's head are instances of Granddad. But the figment of Granddad seen within the CCC is the combination of them all. He is not any one specific version of himself, he is all of them. So what does this have to do with the creepily drawn car? Everything. This has everything to do with the creepily drawn car. In essence, the two cars seen in the Microsoft Paint and Looney Tunes universes respectively are both individual instances of the platonic ideal of the car. Two separate manifestations of the same base concept. What this means is that since the time loop involved two versions of the same object, the multiversal redirect ended up merging them into one, creating a figment. And of course, when a figment is created, it is immediately sent to the central canon continuum, as it is the most metaphysically stable universe within Sivagana's multiverse. So then, the now figmatized car, along with everything inside, is taken directly to the CCC. By the way, avid viewers of the channel may be wondering why the instance of the car seen in Slot Machine Betamax Star Fox didn't also get combined when the car became a figment. It's because the figmentization process doesn't necessarily remove any instances of the concept from all worlds. How exactly does it work? It's rather complicated. Maybe we can talk about it in another video. Maybe not, I don't know. So that, at long last, is how 2B and Mr. Ent made it into the central canon continuum. Now wait a minute, you may be asking, where did Mr. Ent come from? Let's go all the way back to when 2B was driving the car in the Microsoft Paint universe. Yes, right there. Now, I know you don't see anything quite yet, and that's because we need to look deeper. Enhance, enhance, enhance. There he is. That's right, Mr. Ent was in the car with 2B when she drove it into Mr. Own. He was taking his cousin on a drive when he spotted Eminem and stopped the car completely, leaving Mr. Ent in the back seat waiting for him to come back. This left an opening for 2B to take the car, transporting Mr. Ent to the central canon continuum when the redirect happened. This eventually leads us to opening scene Waluigi's taco stand, where in this rip he mentions his cousin Mr. Own, fearing what he's doing now. This cutaway gag, which supposedly happened in the present, is actually something of a flashback, as it has been established that timescales between universes work differently. Speaking of Waluigi, Mr. Ent also mentions here that they have a long history together. This is also mentioned by Dr. Endenotz in the Paint archive, where he takes note of how strange that is, considering how the two characters are from completely different universes. He suggests that the CCC's Garlic Taco may have altered their memories to allow for this. Yet again, this is an instance of Internuts not quite having all the facts. Let's get into the origins of where this Waluigi is from. I mentioned earlier to make a note of Waluigi's appearance in main theme Kirby Fighters 2. This iteration of Waluigi is actually the same Waluigi from Waluigi's taco stand we know and love. How could this be? Well, as we see in the video, the Kirby Fighters send Waluigi into a portal using a garlic taco he made in that universe. But despite that, this still should be impossible, as it is mentioned in Waluigi's taco stand that Waluigi never made a taco before. Well, as it turns out, Dr. Endernuts was actually onto something when he suggested that Waluigi and Mr. Ant's memories were altered, because that's exactly what happened. Side note, when Pink Kirby grabs Waluigi's taco, he calls it a
time-traveling taco.
While this isn't exactly what it is technically true. The Kirby Fighter series of rips are time-locked in the late 2000s, meaning that when Waluigi got sent to the CCC, which is time-locked in 2016, he was technically sent to the future. So, how exactly does this explain the altered memories Waluigi and Mr. Ant have in Waluigi's taco stand? Well, actually, I have an exclusive clip to showcase this. Please take a look. As you can see in the clip, Mr. Ant, after crashing into the CCC with 2B, stumbles out of the crappily drawn car feeling dazed. Not too long after this, Waluigi gets transported and falls directly on top of Mr. Ant. Due to this forceful collision, the anomalous energies present at the time fused and warped the memories of Mr. Ant and Waluigi, hence their strange history together, which never happened in the first place. But on the topic of Waluigi's taco stand and time-travelling tacos, there is actually one last discrepancy to clear up. Let's turn our attention back to the incident involving the Voice's attempted summoning of 2B through the Figment transportation device. Remember when I said that the FTD's target was swapped by 9S through his hacking? Well, that was a lie. But I swear that's the only lie I've told during this video. Honest. And I only said it because the real explanation would have completely broken the flow of the script. What is the real explanation? Alright, so the Voice was in his office, and because he of course didn't have the time to go all the way back to Siva's house, he had Parsec opened up on his computer, linked up to Siva's so that he could operate the FTD program remotely. But because Parsec isn't the most reliable of programs, when he tried to summon 2B, it ate his input. So then why didn't he just try again immediately? Well, that's because right after his first try, he got confirmation from his troops stationed at Siva's house that the target was successfully summoned and detained. However, once his troops arrived with the supposed target, the truth was revealed. Turns out the Voice's troops were freaking morons. It was 9S they captured, not 2B. Upon seeing this, the Voice simply assumed that the reason for his program's error must have been due to 9S hacking it during the process, and he proceeded to brief 9S under that assumption. 9S went on to believe him, hinging his escape plan on reversing the FTD's effects and causing the events discussed earlier to occur. One such event being that the FTD malfunctioned and sent 9S to the realm of Mundus. Now 9S figured that this happened due to his reversal program being undercooked, but that isn't quite right. The reason the FTD didn't reverse its effects is because 9S didn't arrive through the FTD in the first place. So how did he get to the CCC? Let's circle back to Waluigi's taco stand. You'll remember that the garlic taco created in the original video created a portal within the taco truck. Waluigi's boss, Al Bean, reprimanded him, to which he suggested simply draping a blanket over it. It turns out, Al Bean went on to do just that, concealing the open portal in his truck as he made his rounds across Grandiose City. In specific, one of the stops he would make on his route was right outside Sivagunna's house. Keep this fresh in your head, because now we have to shift over to what was going on in the near universe at the time. As it happens, the near universe was actually the one on the other side of the portal. Said portal appearing behind 2B almost instantly, primed to suck her in. Acting on his feet, 9S quickly moved 2B out of the way, got sucked in himself, and the portal closed behind him. He then landed in the CCC, where the Voice's troops were waiting for an android to capture. As for why the portal was open for so long in the CCC, while only being open for mere seconds in the near universe, that just boils down to different timescales in different universes again. But more importantly, shouldn't it be impossible for 9S to have arrived in the CCC through the taco portal, given that Waluigi was the one who made it, and he only arrived in the CCC once 9S had already left? Well, again, the garlic taco is established to have time warping abilities. So when 9S went through the portal, he landed at its future point in space, but in a previous point in time, before the taco had even been created. So taking all that into account, why was the Skyrim mod's description wrong about these events? Well, it's because the one who wrote it, Susie, thought the unaltered version of the events were too convoluted to sum up quickly, and that it hurt the flow of the writing. It's essentially the same story anyway, just with a tighter focus on the emotional and thematic beats, rather than exact mechanical accuracy. I think with a full overhead view like this though, the story kind of ends up coming full circle when you think about it. You get what I mean, right? Yeah, you do. Okay, so, did you get all of that? I sure hope as hell you did, because I can't be bothered to say all of it again. In any case, those are all the questions answered, right? Well, I guess except one. Why? And I don't mean as in like mechanically or whatever. We're done with all that. I promise. Why as in why any of this? From a storytelling perspective, what is the point of it? All these needlessly intricate plot mechanics, time travel shenanigans, alternate universes, anomalies. What is it all trying to say? What is the subtext? Well, here's the deal. The reason anomalies have all these reality-breaking powers, the reason worlds beside ours have often looser rules and spawn anomalies more frequently, the answer is actually very simple, and I mean it this time. It's because they're total bullshit. It's because the actual writers who made them weren't thinking about how any of this was going to stay consistent with the established law, and they didn't care. They just wanted to make something funny, disconnected from anything important. That's how you get garlic tacos that can punch holes in space-time, cars that can cross dimensions, and an omnipotent kid in a life vest. That's the reason why most, if not all, sentient anomalies are meta-aware to some degree, because they're walking plot contrivances. That's why the central canon continuum almost never allows anomalies to be used productively once they enter, because they would completely break the story. but in alternate dimensions, not bound by the main story, it's all fair game. Having said all that, I want to say straight up that this video isn't supposed to be taking a dig at less important stories on the channel. It's fun sometimes to make whatever you want and put it out there. Not everything has to be perfectly in line with some grand overarching narrative or something. It's just about fun. And for most people, it's not exactly fun to work out insane quantum mechanics so their dumb shitpost makes logical sense. Everything stated in this video is still absolutely 100% tried and true canon, but it took a whole lot of thought to have it all fit together as cleanly as it did. I guess at the end of the day, the moral of the story is that none of this matters! But that's okay. What matters are the things you take away from it. Whether that's mapping everything out so that it's perfectly consistent with everything else, or just finding the humor in things. What's important is that you enjoy doing it.